When you find yourself awake between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., it is rarely random. It is a moment when the world is quiet enough for your soul to finally be heard. In those hours, your heart whispers truths you drowned out during the day. Your pain becomes clearer, your needs rise to the surface, and your connection to Allah becomes more accessible than ever. These hours are not a disturbance. They are an invitation. An invitation to return, to realign, to breathe, to release what's been heavy, to rediscover what you've forgotten. There is a reason the darkest part of the night carries the strongest spiritual light. You are being asked to pause before dawn, to check the wounds you've hidden, to ask for help you didn't know you needed, to open your hands and let the one who never sleeps write calm back into your story. Waking up in these hours is not a punishment, it is a mercy. It is a moment wrapped in divine tenderness, calling you to turn your restlessness into remembrance, your fears into dua, and your solitude into a sacred meeting. When the world sleeps, your heart wakes. Because maybe that's the only time it knows you'll finally listen. Waking up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. is often a spiritual invitation, not an inconvenience. At first, it can feel frustrating or even unsettling to find yourself awake while the rest of the world sleeps. Your mind may race with worries about the day ahead, regrets from the past, or anxieties about what's unseen. But if you pause and listen, you'll notice that there is a subtle stillness in these hours, a quiet that is almost sacred, a moment when the distractions of daily life have vanished and you are left with only yourself and your Creator. It is in this quiet that your heart speaks the loudest. Often we are too busy, too distracted, too caught up in the noise of life to hear our own hearts. But the night has a way of stripping all that away. The world's demands food. The endless tasks and responsibilities vanish for a while, and you are left with your thoughts, your feelings, and the raw truth of your soul. This can feel uncomfortable at first because the heart speaks truths we often avoid. Perhaps it is longing for something deeper, seeking forgiveness, clarity, or guidance. Perhaps it is calling you to release burdens that have accumulated silently over time. The awakening during these hours is not random. It is a reminder that your soul cannot be ignored. There is a profound opportunity in these moments. When you are awake while the world sleeps, you have the chance to reconnect with your spiritual self without interruption. You can turn your wakefulness into a space for reflection, a space to ask for guidance, a space to remember that life is not just the hours we spend doing and achieving, but also the hours we spend being and listening. Many great spiritual traditions recognize these hours as powerful moments for prayer, meditation, and reflection. In Islam, the pre-dawn time, or Tahajjud, is especially significant, a time when prayers are answered, when hearts are softened, and when closeness to Allah is most attainable. It is a time when the veil between you and your Creator feels thinner, when the world's distractions no longer compete for your attention, and when sincerity becomes effortless because there is no one watching, no one judging, and no one to impress. The beauty of waking up in these hours is that it teaches patience, awareness, and intentionality. You learn to embrace stillness, to sit with discomfort, and to find peace within yourself. You learn that not every waking moment must be filled with activity, that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to listen, reflect, and reconnect. Your soul has its own rhythm, and the night may be when it is trying to guide you, trying to remind you of what truly matters. These hours can illuminate hidden emotions, forgotten dreams, or unmet needs. They can also remind you of the mercy, grace, and love that exist even in the darkest moments. Your mind may be filled with questions about your path, your purpose, or your worth, but in these quiet hours, you are invited to bring those questions before the one who knows you better than you know yourself. Even if you cannot articulate the reason for your wakefulness, simply being present and aware is transformative. Breathing deeply, offering gratitude for life, acknowledging your struggles, and making small acts of remembrance can shift the heaviness in your chest into a sense of calm. The night, in its silence, is patient. It does not rush you. It allows you to arrive fully without pretense or performance, without distraction or comparison. In the darkness, light emerges. Not always outside, but within. You are being called not to action in the conventional sense, but to a deeper form of awareness, a spiritual awakening that often goes unnoticed in the business of daytime life. Waking up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. may feel inconvenient, but it is actually a profound mercy. It is an opportunity to step outside the chaos of the world, to pause, to reflect, and to reconnect. These hours offer clarity that daytime noise often obscures, a chance to untangle thoughts and feelings, and a moment to surrender worries and fears. It is a sacred pause that invites you to remember who you are, why you are here, and what truly matters. If you embrace these early hours, you will discover that they are not empty or wasted. They are charged with possibility, with healing, and with spiritual growth. This is why waking up in the night is not a problem to be fixed, but a gift to be cherished, a whisper from the universe, or perhaps from the divine, reminding you to stop, breathe, and return home to your heart. Use this time to make sincere dua for what the heart has been silently carrying. When the world is asleep and the quiet of the night surrounds you, there is a unique intimacy that emerges between you and your Creator. In the daylight hours, our hearts are often busy with distractions, tasks to complete, conversations to manage, worries to contain, and emotions to suppress. We rarely allow ourselves to sit in the stillness long enough to truly acknowledge what we are feeling or to articulate the needs that weigh on our hearts. But when you wake in the hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., a sacred space opens up. The silence itself encourages honesty because there is no audience, no judgment, and no need to perform. The heart begins to speak, quietly but insistently, revealing the prayers it has been holding back. Sincere dua is not just about reciting words, it is about the alignment of your heart, mind, and soul with the divine. It is the unspoken language of the heart, a deep yearning for comfort, guidance, healing, or forgiveness. Often, we think of dua as something formal, a ritual that must be structured in a certain way, but the truth is that sincere dua requires only authenticity. It is the raw authenticity. Unfiltered expression of what you carry inside. This may include fears you have never voiced, grief that you have hidden, desires you feel unworthy of, or hopes you have kept secret even from yourself. The night offers a kind of safety that daytime cannot, a permission to be vulnerable without fear of interruption. When you make dua in these hours, your words can flow from a place of deep sincerity. It is a moment when you can speak to the one who knows every thought before it forms, who understands every pain before it surfaces, and who sees every tear before it falls. There is a profound power in voicing what has been silently carrying your soul, each whispered plea, each humble request, each silent wish carries energy that transforms both your heart and your awareness. The act of turning to Allah in these moments is itself an acknowledgement that you are not alone, that your struggles matter, and that there is a source of mercy, guidance, and love greater than anything this world can offer. In these hours, there is also the gift of reflection. As you speak to the divine, you begin to notice what your heart truly longs. Sometimes the surface concerns, stress, fear, or frustration mask deeper needs. See the need for healing, for clarity, for courage, for connection. When you allow yourself to voice these silently held burdens, the act of expressing them becomes a kind of purification. It lightens the chest, clarifies the mind, and softens the heart. Even before answers arrive, the act of sincere dua is transformative because it teaches trust, humility, and surrender. The beauty of making dua during these early hours is that it invites presence. You do not need elaborate words or perfect phrasing. What matters is that your heart speaks and that your attention is fully turned toward the one who listens. It is a time to ask not only for what you think you want, but for what you truly need, and to trust that what is given will be what is best for your soul, even if it differs from your expectations. You can pour out gratitude alongside your requests, acknowledging blessings that you may have overlooked in the rush of daytime life. You can ask for strength to face challenges, clarity to make decisions, and guidance to live with integrity and purity. You can ask for forgiveness for moments of weakness, for patience in times of trial, and for the wisdom to align your life with what is meaningful and true. Sincere dua in these hours also carries an intimacy and a humility that daytime prayers sometimes cannot reach. It is a private conversation with the divine, an act of vulnerability that acknowledges your dependence and your desire for closeness. And in this stillness, you may notice that your heart begins to shift even before the dua is answered. The act of voicing what you have held silently can release burdens, create clarity, and cultivate a sense of peace. There is a quiet empowerment in recognizing that your voice, your heart, and your prayers matter, and that you are heard fully and completely. To make the most of this sacred time, approach your dua with openness and honesty. Speak as if no one is listening except the one who knows you completely. Bring every fear, every hope, every desire, every unspoken word. Sit with your heart, breathe deeply, and allow the silence to carry your words upward. These moments can become a sanctuary, a space where healing begins, guidance emerges, and your heart is finally recognized in its fullness. Engaging in the Dhikr to calm the inner noise and reconnect with the divine is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself during the early hours of the morning. When the world sleeps, our hearts often become louder, not quieter. Thoughts, worries, regrets, and fears rise to the surface because there is nothing to distract us from them. We notice the unfinished conversations, the mistakes we have made, the moments we have overlooked, and the emotions we have pushed aside. This inner noise can feel overwhelming, as though your mind is a storm that refuses to settle. But Dhikr, the remembrance of Allah, acts like a gentle anchor, bringing focus and calm to a restless heart. It is more than just repeating words. It is an act of turning your entire being toward the one who knows, who sees, and who understands your soul more deeply than anyone else ever could. Dhikr works because it shifts your awareness. In the chaos of the mind, it is easy to feel scattered, disconnected, or even invisible in your own life. You may move from task to task, relationship to relationship, without ever pausing to remember the source of your guidance and strength. But when you consciously engage in Dhikr, you create a space for presence. Your heart begins to synchronize with the rhythm of your remembrance, your breath becomes a vehicle for connection, and your mind slowly lets go of the worries that have held it captive. Simple phrases like Subhanallah or Alhamdulillah may seem small, but when repeated with intention, they act like seeds planted in the soil of your heart. Each repetition nourishes your spirit, softens tension, and reconnects you to a reality greater than your daily struggles. The beauty of Dhikr during the pre-dawn hours is the stillness that surrounds you. In the quiet, there is no competing noise from the outside world. Your heart, which may have been drowned out by constant distractions during the day, now has room to speak. Each word of remembrance becomes a bridge between your soul and the divine, allowing you to release what weighs heavily on your mind. Anxiety, fear, doubt, and regret can begin to dissipate as you focus on the one who is ever present. The act of Dhikr teaches patience and mindfulness, reminding you that you are not defined by your mistakes, your fears, or the chaos around you, but by your capacity to remember, to surrender, and to seek closeness to Allah. Dhikr also transforms the way you perceive your own heart. When you take a few minutes, maybe even hours, to engage in remembrance, you start noticing the subtle shifts within yourself. Your breath slows, your mind feels lighter, and a sense of tranquility begins to settle in your chest. You recognize that the storms of thought that plagued you were not permanent, and that with conscious connection, your soul has the capacity to find peace. It is a profound reminder that your well-being is tied to your remembrance, and that by returning repeatedly to Allah, you are nurturing a relationship that strengthens you in ways that no worldly achievement ever could. Moreover, dhikr is a form of empowerment. It reminds you that while you may not control every circumstance, you do have control over your focus, your attention, and your intention. You can choose to dwell in the noise, or you can choose to redirect yourself towards something eternal, meaningful, and restorative. Each act of remembrance is a declaration that your heart matters, that your soul deserves care, and that you are willing to prioritize what is lasting over what is fleeting. In a world that often encourages distraction and superficiality, this dhikr becomes an act of courage, a choice to reconnect with truth and with the divine presence that sustains. Engaging in dhikr in the early morning hours also heightens your sensitivity to gratitude, humility, and hope. As you repeat the names of Allah, reflect on His mercy, or express praise, you begin to notice blessings that might have gone unacknowledged. You are reminded that even in moments of difficulty, there is support, guidance, and love surrounding you. This shift in awareness allows you to approach life with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. You start the day, or continue the night, not with panic or restlessness, but with calm, centered energy that comes from deep spiritual alignment. Ultimately, dhikr is not just a practice, it is a lifeline. It is a way to calm the inner storm, to silence the doubts that chatter endlessly, and to reconnect with the one who is the source of all peace and understanding. When you make dhikr a habit, especially during the pre-dawn hours, it becomes more than words on your tongue. It becomes the language of your heart, the rhythm of your soul, and the quiet assurance that you are never alone. The inner noise that once overwhelmed you transforms into a gentle hum of connection, reminding you that every heartbeat, every breath, and every moment of attention given to Allah is a step closer to tranquility, clarity, and divine intimacy. Reflecting on your emotional and spiritual state with honesty and gentleness is one of the most profound acts you can engage in during the early hours of the morning. When the world sleeps, the mind is often less distracted, and the heart's true feelings begin to surface. It is easy to hide behind routines, responsibilities, or social masks, convincing ourselves that we are fine or that we can manage everything on our own. But in the quiet of the pre-dawn hours, there is no place to hide. Thoughts, emotions, and subtle intuitions that we have long ignored or suppressed begin to emerge. This is an invitation to sit with yourself, not to judge, criticize, or push away, but to observe, acknowledge, and understand what you are truly feeling and experiencing at your core. Honest reflection begins with awareness. It is about asking yourself questions that may have felt uncomfortable during the day. What am I feeling right now? Why do certain emotions rise within me? What is unresolved in my heart? What fears or regrets have I been carrying still in? Approaching these questions with gentleness is essential because the goal is not to create more burden or guilt, but to cultivate understanding and healing. Often, we are harsher with ourselves than we would ever be with someone we love deeply. We criticize our mistakes, belittle our emotions, or dismiss our struggles. In the early morning, you have the opportunity to respond differently with compassion, patience, and grace toward yourself. You can be the safe space your heart has been craving. Spiritual reflection goes hand in hand with emotional reflection. As you sit in stillness, consider your relationship with the divine, your sense of purpose, and the alignment between your actions and your values. Are you living in a way that nourishes your soul? Are there areas of your life where you feel disconnected or out of balance? The night offers clarity because there are fewer distractions, and the heart is more attuned to subtle nudges from within and from Allah. Reflection allows you to see patterns in your behavior, areas where you may have strayed from your best intentions, or moments where you can cultivate more gratitude, patience, or humility. It is not about self-recrimination, it is about understanding and recalibrating, giving yourself the chance to course correct with awareness and intentionality. Gentleness in reflection is about creating an inner environment that fosters healing rather than judgment. It is a tender acknowledgement that your heart is doing its best, that your journey is ongoing, and that growth is not linear. You can hold your emotions without needing to fix them immediately. You can sit with sadness, fear, anxiety, or regret and allow them to be witnessed rather than buried. This practice gradually trains the heart to be more resilient, more self-aware, and more compassionate. Over time, this gentleness becomes a habit, shaping the way you relate to yourself and to others throughout the day. Reflecting honestly and gently also cultivates clarity and insight. When you take the time to look inward, patterns begin to emerge. You may notice recurring thoughts, triggers, or emotional responses that have been influencing your life in ways you didn't fully recognize. By naming these patterns and holding them with gentleness, you create the possibility for transformation. You begin to understand the why behind your actions, reactions, and feelings. This awareness is the foundation for spiritual growth because it allows you to make intentional choices rather than being driven solely by unconscious habits or external pressures. During these hours, reflection can also become a bridge between your emotional state and your spiritual practice. As you observe your feelings, you can bring them into your prayers, your dhikr, and your dua. You can ask for guidance for healing or for strength to navigate the challenges you uncover within yourself. By combining emotional honesty with spiritual openness, you transform introspection into a sacred practice. Each moment of reflection becomes an act of worship, a step toward alignment with your highest self and with the divine. Ultimately, reflecting on your emotional and spiritual state with honesty and gentleness is a gift to your soul. It teaches self-awareness, self-compassion, and spiritual sensitivity. It allows you to face yourself without fear, to understand your heart without judgment, and to reconnect with your purpose and your creator. In the early morning stillness, when the world is quiet and your heart is awake, this reflection becomes a sanctuary, a space where you can be fully present with yourself and fully receptive to the guidance, healing, and love that the divine offers. By approaching this practice with honesty and gentleness, you cultivate a profound inner peace and a deeper sense of alignment that carries through the rest of your day and ultimately your life. Seeking forgiveness and releasing the burdens that weigh on your soul is one of the most transformative practices you can engage in during the quiet hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. In the stillness of the night, when distractions fade and the world is wrapped in silence, the heart becomes more receptive, more honest, and more willing to confront its own imperfections. During the day, it is easy to gloss over mistakes, to push a gloss over mistakes, or to justify our shortcomings. But in the early morning, the soul recognizes what the mind may have ignored, the unresolved pain may have ignored, the lingering regrets, the unspoken apologies, and the moments where we fell short of our own values or of what we hope to offer others. Seeking forgiveness in these hours is not just an act of ritual, it is an intimate conversation with the divine, a conscious step toward lightening the weight that has accumulated in your heart. Forgiveness begins with acknowledgement. It starts by recognizing that no one is perfect, that mistakes are part of the human experience, and that the weight of regret only grows heavier when ignored. When you sit in silence and look inward, You may feel the tension of past actions, words spoken in haste, or opportunities missed. These are not signs of failure. They are opportunities for growth. By acknowledging them with honesty, you allow yourself to confront what has been buried or overlooked, creating space for healing. This process requires courage because it asks you to face yourself without pretense, without excuses, and without avoidance. In these quiet hours, you can offer dua for forgiveness, not only for mistakes toward others, but also for the ways you have wronged yourself. Perhaps there were moments you ignored your own needs, pushed down your feelings, or failed to honor your own boundaries. Seeking forgiveness is not limited to interpersonal relationships. It extends to your relationship with yourself and your relationship with Allah. By turning your heart toward the divine with humility, you acknowledge that you are human, that you are learning, and that you are open to transformation. The act of seeking forgiveness is deeply liberating because it releases the burdens that weigh on the soul. Guilt, shame, resentment, and regret can accumulate like invisible chains, restricting emotional and spiritual growth. But when you sincerely ask for forgiveness, a shift occurs. The heart begins to soften, the chest begins to lighten, and a sense of inner peace starts to emerge. You realize that holding on to past mistakes does not honor the lessons they offer. It only prolongs suffering. Forgiveness, both sought and granted, becomes a bridge between who you were and who you are becoming, allowing the soul to move forward unencumbered. During these hours, it is also a time to reflect on the mercy and compassion of Allah. The night invites you to remember that no matter the magnitude of your mistakes, no misstep is beyond divine understanding and forgiveness. There is a profound relief in realizing that the divine does not measure you solely by your failures, but also by your sincerity, your willingness to return, and your openness to change. By embracing this truth, you can release not only your own burdens, but also the weight of fear, self-criticism, and doubt that may have accompanied them. Releasing burdens also requires gentleness toward yourself. Seeking forgiveness is not about beating yourself up or dwelling endlessly on the past. It is about acknowledging your humanity, making amends where possible, and committing to do better moving forward. It is about softening the heart and allowing yourself to heal. You can take small steps, even simple acts of repentance, reflection, or prayer, to unburden your soul. Each sincere effort, no matter how small, contributes to a larger transformation, a gradual lifting of the weight that is pressed on your heart. This practice is not just a momentary relief. It is a spiritual reset. By seeking forgiveness and releasing what no longer serves you, you create room for clarity, peace, and alignment with your higher purpose. Your heart becomes more open to love, compassion, and gratitude. Your mind becomes less cluttered with the noise of regret and self-criticism, and your spirit becomes more attuned to guidance, inspiration, and the quiet whispers of the divine. Seeking forgiveness in the early morning is a sacred act of liberation. It is a recognition that the past does not define you, that your mistakes are part of your journey, and that through humility, reflection, and sincerity, the soul can be lightened. In these hours, when the world sleeps and the heart is awake, you have the opportunity to unburden yourself fully, to turn toward Allah with honesty and humility, and to experience the profound peace that comes from releasing what no longer serves you. It is in this release that the soul finds rest, clarity, and renewal, a quiet, sacred freedom that carries forward into every waking moment of your life. Transforming the stillness of these hours into a moment of healing and realignment is one of the most profound gifts you can give yourself when you wake between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. The world is silent, and the usual distractions that fill your day, the noise of responsibilities, obligations, and social expectations, have faded. In this quiet, the heart is awake in ways that it rarely is during daylight. It notices what has been overlooked, it feels what has been ignored, and it longs for connection, clarity, and restoration. This stillness is not empty, it is an invitation, a sacred space where your soul can breathe, release, and recalibrate. It is a rare moment where healing is possible because you are fully present with yourself and, if you choose, fully present with the divine. Healing begins with awareness. In the pre-dawn hours, you have the opportunity to observe your own mind and heart with honesty. What emotions are present? What thoughts have you been carrying that drain your energy or cloud your peace? What wounds remain unhealed? What burdens remain unspoken? The stillness of these hours allows you to face these realities not with fear or shame, but with acceptance and curiosities. To transform these moments into healing, it is essential to sit with yourself and acknowledge what is there. Suppressed pain, regret, or anxiety can be illuminated simply by bringing awareness to it. In doing so, you honor your inner self, affirming that your experiences, however painful or complicated, matter and deserve recognition. Once awareness is established, stillness can become a tool for release. The act of consciously breathing, reflecting, or engaging in spiritual practice during these hours allows the mind and body to let go of tension accumulated over days, weeks, or even years. Prayers, dhikr, meditation, journaling, or simply sitting in contemplation can become vessels through which the soul sheds heaviness. The process is gentle yet powerful. The burdens you have carried, worries about the future, regrets from the past, or the weight of unmet expectations, begin to loosen their grip as you offer them up in prayer or reflection. Healing occurs when these burdens are no longer internalized as shame or guilt, but instead recognized, accepted, and surrendered. Realignment emerges naturally from this process of reflection and release. When the heart and mind are no longer clouded by unresolved emotions or distractions, clarity appears. You may find yourself noticing patterns in your life, understanding your priorities, or recognizing the intentions that guide your actions. Realignment is about reconnecting with what truly matters, the values that shape your choices, the relationships that sustain you, and the inner guidance that points you toward growth and peace. In these early morning hours, you have the rare opportunity to recalibrate, to realign your actions with your higher purpose, your spiritual beliefs, and the authentic desires of your heart. This transformation also invites presence and intentionality. In the silence, every thought, every breath, every intention becomes more vivid and more meaningful. You can choose to direct your energy toward healing, gratitude, and constructive action, rather than letting your mind drift into worry or self-criticism. By consciously turning these hours into a time of alignment, you are cultivating habits that ripple into your day. Decisions become clearer, interactions become more mindful, and your sense of purpose becomes stronger. Small choices made in these moments, acknowledging pain, expressing gratitude, or renewing intentions, can set the tone for the rest of your life. Healing and realignment in the early hours are also deeply spiritual experiences. When you connect with the divine in the quiet, you recognize that your challenges, burdens, and desires are seen and understood. You are reminded that you are not alone, that support is always available, and that guidance is accessible when your heart is receptive. This awareness fosters hope, courage, and resilience. It reminds you that healing is not just about alleviating pain, but about awakening to your own strength, your own capacity for growth, and your own ability to navigate life with intention and clarity. Ultimately, transforming this stillness into healing and realignment is about presence, surrender, and intention. It is about taking advantage of the sacred hours of the night to listen, reflect, release, and realign. It is a conscious choice to turn wakefulness into an opportunity for restoration rather than restlessness. By embracing these moments, you allow your heart to soften, your mind to clarify, and your soul to reconnect with its deepest truths. The stillness of 3am to fam is not a void. It is a canvas upon which you can paint peace, healing, and direction. Each breath, each reflection, each prayer, each moment of mindful presence contributes to a transformation that continues long after the sun rises, carrying into your actions, your relationships, and your inner life.